Have you ever sent an email and spent the next 2 hours convinced that you've said something wrong? Or had someone cancel plans last minute and immediately you assumed it was because they actually don't like you? Or have you ever walked out of a meeting feeling completely fine and then for some reason replayed one comment from your boss on loop for the rest of the day? If you have ADHD, there's a name for that. It's called Rejection Sensitive Dysphoria, or RSD. And if nobody has ever explained it to you, today is going to be one of those videos that suddenly makes a lot of things fall into place. Rejection Sensitive Dysphoria, RSD, is an intense emotional response to the perception of being criticized, rejected, or falling short of what other people might expect of you. And I want to highlight that word, perception. The rejection doesn't even have to be real. A slightly curt text, a colleague who didn't say good morning, a friend who seems distracted on their phone. For someone with RSD, that can be enough to trigger a wave of pain that feels completely out of proportion to what's actually happening. RSD is not a diagnosis on its own. It is recognized as one of the most common and most disabling parts of ADHD in adults. Dr. William Dodson, who has written extensively on this, describes the feeling as not a sadness but of a sudden, overwhelming emotional pain. People who experience it often say it's the worst part of having ADHD. Not the forgetfulness, not the time blindness, but this. So, what are the signs? What does RSD actually look like in real life, especially if you're in your 40s or 50s? You've been living with this, possibly undiagnosed, for maybe decades. So, here are some of the most common features. The first is that the intensity feels completely disproportionate. Someone gives you a piece of critical feedback that any reasonable person would just brush off within a couple of minutes, but you feel it as a gut punch. And that feeling doesn't fade. It sits with you for hours, sometimes even days. You know intellectually that you're overreacting, and that actually makes it worse. The second is that you assume the worst about other people's intentions. A friend doesn't reply to your message. Your partner seems quiet at dinner. Your manager gives you a look during a meeting. Your brain immediately jumps to the most catastrophic interpretation. They're angry with you. They're disappointed with you. You've done something wrong. You are the problem. The third is that you avoid situations where you might fail or be judged. This is one huge for our generation. By the time we're in our 40s, many of us have developed enormous avoidance patterns to protect ourselves from that pain. You don't put your hand up in meetings. You don't apply for that promotion. You don't share your ideas until you're absolutely certain that it's perfect. And because it never feels perfect, you never share it. The fourth is that people please. We are a people pleaser. We please people constantly. When rejection feels like a physical threat, keeping everyone else happy feels like survival. You say yes when you mean no. You agree with people you disagree with. You work twice as hard as everyone else, not because you want to, but because if you do more, then maybe nobody will find fault with you. And the fifth is that you replay conversations obsessively. Something happened at 10 in the morning. It's now 11 p.m. and you're in bed, and that moment is still running through your head on loop, analyzing every word you said, every look on their face. Sound familiar? Now let's talk about what this actually costs you, because by the time you're in your 40s, RSD has often been quietly shaping your life for a long time without you even realizing it. In your career, RSD can keep you invisible. You might be one of the most capable people in the room, but if the fear of being judged is strong enough, you won't speak. You'll hold back your ideas. You'll under-negotiate your salary because asking and being told no feels devastating. You might have walked away from opportunities, not because you weren't good enough, but because the risk of someone deciding you weren't good enough was just too much to sit with us. Some people go to the other direction. They overwork to the point of burnout, trying to make themselves rejection proof. They become the person who's always first in the morning and always last to leave, never says no, takes on everybody else's problems, all to manage that constant background fear. In relationships, it can mean you struggle to have honest conversations. You'd rather swallow something difficult than risk a conflict. Or on the flip side, when you do feel rejected, even over something small, the reaction can be so intense that it confuses and frightens people and those who love you. And then you feel ashamed about your own reaction, which starts the whole cycle again. Now, before I wrap up, I want to speak to you directly, to anyone watching this who doesn't have RSD themselves, but manages someone who might, or has someone in their life that they're starting to recognize in them some of the things I've discussed today. Because how you show up for that person genuinely matters. A few small shifts in how you communicate can make an enormous difference. If you're a line manager, the first thing is to be specific with feedback and separate it from the person. This report needs another draft because the data section just isn't clear enough. Actually lands, and lands completely different to this isn't good enough. The more concrete and task focused your feedback is, the less room there is for an RSD brain to fill in the gaps with the worst possible interpretation. Second, don't go quiet. If you're busy, distracted, or processing something, say so. A brief, all's good, but I've got a lot on today, removes the silence that an RSD brain will immediately turn into a story about something being wrong. You don't need to explain yourself, just don't disappear. Third, give positive feedback explicitly and often, not in a performative way, but genuinely. People with RSD are often so primed to hear what's wrong that they generally don't absorb when something's right, unless it's said clearly and directly. A passing good job in the corridor won't land. A specific, I thought the way you handled that client call this morning was really strong, will. And fourth, if you need to have a difficult conversation with them, give them a heads up before that, that is coming, and frame it neutrally. I'd like to catch up with you later this week about the project. Nothing urgent, just want to talk it through. It's so much kinder than a calendar invite that says catch up and no context. That blank invite will ruin their week before you've said a word. If you're a partner, friend, or family member, the most important thing you can do is not dismiss the reaction, even when it seems completely out of proportion. Saying you're overreacting or I didn't mean it like that, even if it's completely true, tends to add shame on top of the pain, and it doesn't help them come down from it. Instead, just acknowledge it. I can see that landed really hard goes a long way. You don't have to agree with the situation that warranted the response. You just need them to feel that you're not adding to it. It also helps to be consistent. RSD is partly driven by uncertainty in the brain. The brain is constantly scanning for signs that something is wrong. People who are warm, clear, and consistent are much easier to be around for someone with RSD than people who run hot and cold, even if it's completely unintentional. And if they go quiet after a conflict or pull back, try not to take it personally. That withdrawal is often a protection mechanism. Give them a little space. Gently make it clear you're still there. A short message that says, no pressure, just wanted to know that I'm thinking of you. Call me when you can break a spiral that they couldn't break on their own. You cannot fix RSD for someone, but you can be a safe person and someone who spent decades bracing for rejection. That is more than enough. If any of this is resonating with you, I want you to hear something clearly. This is not a character flaw. This is not you being too sensitive or too dramatic or just too much. This is a neurological response Your brain is wired this way, and there's nothing wrong with you for having it. The most important first step is simply naming it. Because once you understand that what you're experiencing is RSD and not evidence that you're fundamentally unlovable or a failure, you can actually start to separate the feeling from the facts. In fact, in an up and coming video, I'm going to go into things that actually can help, from how to talk to your GP about it to some of the more in the moment strategies that can interrupt that spiral before it takes over. But for now, if this video just gave you a name for something you've been carrying for years, that matters to me. You're not in this alone, and you never were. See you in the next video. Please like and subscribe. Help me grow the channel. And if this video highlighted the condition to you, please forward it on to friends and family who may be having the same condition themselves, or they can realize what you are going through and can be there as that support person, because we need that person. And I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.